4 and 5. Good morning, everybody. You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk. Let me get you on. Say something.
Afternoon.
Afternoon, thank you. You're listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station, 1320 AM WARA. And we are back from our 2-month hiatus, basically because of me and COVID. And I am very excited to have a good friend, the athletic director over at Bridgewater Raynham High School, Dan Bjorn, slowly making the transition into retirement. If anyone that lived under a rock, if you think of Bridgewater Raynham football, you think of Dan Bjorn. If you think of the athletics over at Bridgewater Raynham High School, you think of Dan Bjorn. Again, Dan, thank you for coming on today.
Don, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And, of course, we have Justin Ferrer, the sports master.
Hello, everybody.
And Catherine Conley, a.k.a. KC.
Hello.
With her Bucks mask on there, ready to go. Yeah. I thought you were going to throw on the Tom Brady shirt today or something. I thought, is that under that?
No, it's my 4 shirt.
Okay. Luz Cabral is taking care of her mom. Alex Mayo is out in the studios doing the engineering. If you want to call in, 508-222-1320. I'm really excited. My first time on the board in a couple months, and nothing's smoking. So that's a good sign. So, Dan, I thought you could educate us for people who don't know your high school career, your college career. I thought it'd be pretty cool to start that way, if that's all right.
Sure, Don. Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Bridgewater. Grew up there and great community. Went to Bridgewater Raynham Regional High School, graduated there in 1980. I then attended Holy Cross, where I played football on a scholarship.
Nice.
And really learned a lot there, I think, in terms of football, and played for some great coaches, and they really taught me well and had a huge impact on my life. Got out of college, actually worked in the business world for a while, but always had a desire to get into teaching and coaching, and I was fortunate in 1986. I started off as a permanent sub in Wareham and was an assistant football coach at Wareham. I then went on to Bishop Fee-In Attleboro and spent 2 years teaching history there and coaching football. Then I moved on to Bourne High School, where I was an assistant coach for a few years. In 1992, I was hired as a history teacher at Bridgewater Raynham. In 1993, I was appointed head football coach there, and I've been there ever since. So I've been very blessed and been surrounded by a lot of great people along the way.
Now, we're going to bounce off each other like a bunch of firecrackers asking you questions. One of my first ones, what was the any coach in college career that comes to mind that if you could give a shout out to that really got you thinking as far as coaching and getting you ready for college ball that comes to mind?
2 in particular. My sophomore year, we had a coaching change, and the head coach, Rick Carter, God rest his soul, was a dynamic coach and passed away at a young age, but he brought in some great coaches with him. So a gentleman by the name of Mark Duffner was a defensive coordinator for my last 3 years there, and just his passion for the game and his knowledge I was joking with him. He called me the other day, when he saw about my retirement. I told him I still have the 1983 playbook I stole. I didn't return it. I still refer to that. And he really had a huge impact. And then an assistant coach, Kevin Coyle, who was my position coach, then became defensive coordinator. Both these gentlemen have gone on and had illustrious careers. Mark is a linebackers coach for the Cincinnati Bengals now, and Kevin is at LSU, but they've been in the NFL and at major colleges. And they've been a resource for me, but they're just good people, and I just learned so much from them. And I think a lot of my coaching philosophy came from those two gentlemen. And they both called me last week, and we talked at great length. And a lot of my college teammates too that have gone on to coaching at a higher level. I touch base with, but they were telling me the impact I've had on young men. But I try to express to Mark Duffin and Kevin Coyle that the impact that they have had on me, it still resonates with me. And it's been over 40 years, or close to 40 years. But we don't talk for sometimes years at a time, and it's like we haven't missed a beat, So I think the bonds in any sports team that, whether it's coach or player or fellow players, the bond that you build just lasts a lifetime. So those two gentlemen really had a huge impact. And then the three head coaches I worked for, I mentioned at Wareham High School, a gentleman named Phil LaFavor, also Paul O'Boy at Bishop Feehan, and then a guy by the name of Peter Stewart at Bourne High School had a huge impact. And so many other coaches I've come in contact with. I've always just tried to take a little piece from each coach that I've come in contact with. It could be from a different sport. I watch other coaches coach their respective sports and just observe from afar and try to incorporate little things I see. So, again, I've really been fortunate. I say it all the time. I've been around a lot of good people, so I've been blessed.
Sorry about that.
That's quite all right.
Sorry, guys. What do you want to? He's ready. You heard him in the lobby. He's ready to go.
I've been worried about this guy. I could tell when I walked in I was in trouble.
All right.
Anybody wearing a Batman mask?
All right. Out of the 301 games you coached, which one stood out to you the most?
Wow, that is a tough question. I can remember the first one, Canton High School. We won 21-7, believe it or not, and I think the last one over Brockton, even though we didn't win, it was a great effort. And I think that if I look back overall, spanning 301 games, I asked our players always to give an effort. I try to make sure they were prepared and play hard through 4 quarters. And anybody that was at that Brockton game last Saturday, I think they would say that our kids played hard till the very end and fought till the very end. And I think we try to do that. So it's really hard to say. There's been so many. I mean, Super Bowl wins are great. I always cherish the ones when I think we're the underdog. I relish the role of an underdog as a coach because it could really build the kids up. But every game I always treated them one at a time, focused one at a time, and they're all very special in their own right. So, tough question. If this is what the day is going to be like, I'm in trouble with this guy.
No, that's a great answer.
No, I remember them all. If some people think something wrong with me, I can remember plays from 20 years ago, 25 years ago. And
that's really cool.
But that's how focused we were. And I just asked my players each week to focus and give their effort. And I'd say all 301 games, the BR kids did that. So, again, I was lucky to have very special kids at Bridgewater Raynham playing for me.
Excellent.
I just wanted to add on to Justin's question. So would you say Canton would be your favorite opponent to play against?
Well, we played them twice my first 2 years. I'm just saying that was my very first game walking on to the old football field across the street at Bridgewater Raynham, and I literally remember walking up the ramp there. There was a nice little setup. That was a beautiful field, the old grass field, but my mouth was so dry I couldn't even talk, but I remember the opening kickoff and a very good play for us. Missed a tackle, and all of a sudden my voice came back, and, and for 301 games, I think people can probably hear me from the sidelines. But no, it's just special because that was the first time walking on the field that I played on, and the community of which I grew up in, and a lot of friends and family at the game. But every single one of the games have been special. So Canton, because it was our first game and we won, probably is even more reason why I remember it. Although I tell people all the time, I remember the losses probably as a coach better than I do the wins. But I've been blessed, and I respect all of our opponents over the years, and I've coached against some great coaches and played against some great players. So, we try to play the best non-league schedule we could find, I think, and people, be hard-pressed to say that we didn't. We played anybody that was willing to play us.
Right. All right, so for some people who don't know Dan's stats, and we'll go over them one more time, is Justin mentioned a couple of them. So Dan finished 207 and 270 wins, 92 losses, and 2 ties.
It was actually 207.
207.
I'll take 270.
Did I say 270? I added a couple. 200 and I got.
I'm not that old.
207 wins. Thank you. 92 losses. And
91.
92. I get 92. Well, maybe you're right. All right, we'll go 91 and 2 ties. He's brought the Trojan team to 7 Super Bowls. And if you think about 7 Super Bowls, right, even as small as this state is, right, that's hard. That's not easy to do. There are still coaches to this day that would love to get a chance to bring their squad in. So he did it, you know what I mean, to play in that situation. 96, 97, 98, 2000, 201, 209, and 2010. He won the Super Bowl twice in 2000, 7-0 in 98 against Waltham, and beat Brockton 21-12. And again, 98. So just to get there and win, it's unbelievable. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I definitely wanted to point that. I think that's an awesome stat. And I wanted to thank John Luck from BTV after he busted my chops on the broadcast over there in Brockton. But great guy, and I want to thank him. And he mentioned some of this during the last game of the regular season. So that's kudos, coach. That's really impressive for all those coaches that never had a shot and never got their team to even be in the Super Bowl. Never win 2 out of 7. Because most of the time some teams go, and I'm not picking on anybody, but the stats is you could go and you could lose every time you went. I mean, look at the Buffalo Bills. You know what I mean?
You reminded me of
You know
the
what I'm
Buffalo
saying?
Bills. We lost 5 of those Super Bowls, but great games. I think about one of the losses was the Everett 2001. We lost 8-7.
Yeah.
They scored with 30 seconds to go and went for 2. And it was not because I was involved in it, but it probably was one of the best high school football games. And you can ask anybody that was there. It was 2 very good teams going at it. And,
Oh, yeah.
so, again, I've been blessed. A lot of great football players have come through, and I probably should take the time to thank the Bridgewater Badgers and the Rainham Giants programs because they really do a great job, at the youth level. I always joke that I think between the 2 programs on any given year, there's close to 400 kids playing football. And I said, it funnels down, if you will, or funnels up. The pyramid, it gets smaller as you get older. But a lot of kids have played some football. Not all of them continue because it's at that level, it's a weight
Yeah, they got to be
class and things. So some of them, but a lot of kids know how to play the game. So I always joke around that there should be enough good football, but even I couldn't screw it up. My coaches and I couldn't screw it up. But again, the kids, Bridgewater Rainham's been a long time, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention the gentleman I played for was Paul Urban, was a former athletic director, but he came into Bridgewater Rainham in my sophomore year, and he changed the culture of football at Bridgewater Rainham. And then Frank Almeida took over. Paul coached for 5 years, very successful. Frank took over for, I think, 11 years, an old Taunton High coach. He's been around, a legend. And so they set the table for me. I handed over the keys to the bus. And
There you go.
I just drove it and sometimes, went off the road, hit a few bumps. But we try to keep it on course. And, like I said earlier, we've been focused on our league championships, and to do that, I went out and tried to get the best non-league opponents we could so that when we got into league games that mattered, our kids were, prepared and have been used to being in tight games. And I guess over the course of time, you look back, I guess it was a good strategy.
I think
probably
so.
should have or could have won a few more games along the way, but I think as a coach, sometimes I'm never satisfied, and maybe that's what drives me. I'm not really sure. A lot of people like to know what drives me. I think my wife is probably trying to figure that out. But
All right, we're going to take our first break. If you want to call in when we get back at 508-222-1320. Yeah, I think the 270 did sound better, right?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
But still, 207 is really good in his whole career since
Yeah.
1993. Of course, I'm referring to Dan Bjorn. He's in studio today. Again, if you want to call back, 508-222-1320. We'll be back with Dan and more right after this.
Hey, welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at the news station, 1320 AM WARA, and online, all one word, 4deepsportstalk.com. We are back with now former Bridgewater Raynham football coach Dan Barron. I understand you had a question.
I do, young lady. Thank you. So, Nate Rollins calling in from the Whitman Hanson Express, and he basically, we talked about this off air. What are you going to miss most about coaching, Dan?
I think the interaction with the kids, with the players, it's teaching. I'm a teacher first and a coach, so being able to teach the players, the game of football,
Yep.
and also life lessons. I think they keep us young, and I tell people all the time as a head football coach, I think as I got older, I love practice, I love the games. It's the preparation in between, which I love, but it just is tiring, but the constant interaction with young people is really what keeps me going. I think anybody that coaches would probably say the same thing.
All right, so my next question to you, and I want to add to that is, I think I told you before, I did a little coaching over at BP with the freshman kids. What's the hardest thing you think coming up? I mean, because you have an excellent feeder system, like you mentioned, the badges, Raynham, and they try to instill that so it makes it easier for you guys to get ready. But there's always, well, you know this better than me, a lot more better than this than I do. As far as the nicks and the bumps that you got to get out of these kids to get them ready to wake them up. What's the biggest thing you have to coach these kids when they get to your level?
Honestly, it's a physical game. I think you got to teach kids how to hit and how to be hit. It's not a natural thing to run into each other full speed or whatever. So to teach them how to practice, it's a grind. Football in particular, I've played a lot of sports. It's one game a week. It's a grind. It's monotonous. I think as a coach, what I enjoy, we've been very blessed. We have a separate freshman program. I have great freshman coaches over the years, but for me, watching sophomores come up and, early in the preseason as the head coach, you're trying to get your team prepared for that first varsity game, but also thinking down the road, you got to develop the younger players for the future.
Yep.
And it happens at different times throughout the year, but when a sophomore finally realizes that they can play with the older kids, it's every level you move up, it's a much faster game and the speed of the game. And once a young player can realize that, maybe I have to take a different angle or maybe take a different step on my blocking assignments,
Yeah.
just little techniques. I think one thing we've done at Bridgewater Raynham over the years is really stress fundamentals, be fundamentally sound. I always talk about blocking, tackling, and running, and we do that ad nauseum, and I think that's why we've had some success. We've had some great players, but we really stress fundamentals.
So the other thing I can add to that, and I know Catherine's ready for her next question, is the concussion rate is really down at BR because you do good fundamentals. Is that safe to say? True to say as far as
I think so. I think the concussion thing is it's clearly it was needed. And I think you're going to get concussions in most contact sports. But
Yep.
the key was, I think, realizing it, sitting someone out, being cautious, and it was that second impact, if you will,
Yep.
and you hadn't fully recovered. The hardest thing with a concussion, I say all the time, is if I break, if I have a knee injury, I'm on crutches, or I have a cast, people say, "Oh, you're hurt," but the concussion, I look across at you and everything's fine, and they don't realize. And so I think that's the best thing that has happened to football, one of the rule changes. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Pete Smith, our athletic trainer, too. He does a great job.
Oh, Pete, yeah.
Yeah, we've been so fortunate to have him over the years with any injury, and it's funny. We mentioned the contact sport. I always have to have a little talk with the kids about being hurt versus injured, and there's going to be some bumps and bruises, and you got to play through that in the game of football or any sport. But an injury is when you need to take the time to heal, and a lot of kids sometimes come back, even with a sore shoulder, I think sometimes, or a sore ankle, come back too early, and then set themselves back even longer. Trying to stress the kids, take a little time to heal, and especially early in the season. It's a long season. It wasn't this past season, but
Right. You know what
a
I
typical
mean.
season.
Yeah.
So to try to tell kids, don't rush back and then lose even more games because you re-injure yourself. And I think technique is key to minimizing concussions. How you tackle and using the right technique. So we try to stress that, and we've been fortunate.
Absolutely. All right, young lady.
What was your favorite memory of coaching football?
Oh, another tough question. I was asked this earlier, and there's so many great games and so many memories. And I'm going to share this one, and if my son's listening, he's probably going to be embarrassed. But so, my son Tyler was a sophomore, and he had a serious injury. And I thought about this after I answered this on another show. We were down at Durfee, and we were winning pretty big at halftime, and he was a sophomore, so we started playing younger kids, and we had certain groups were going to go on defense and offense. And probably the one time I made an executive decision as a coach, and he was supposed to go in on offense, and I saw the clock was running out, and we probably weren't going to get the ball back, so I threw him in on defense, and he made a great tackle at linebacker. And to hear his name announced over the PA system was probably my fondest memory, and he would have been a great player for us, but unfortunately had a career-ending injury in his sophomore year. But he lives and dies for BR football probably more than his old man does. But seriously, when they said tackle by number 66, Bjorn on the play, and that was 2008, I think, and I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yes,
So, and I made an executive decision as head coach, and maybe it was one time my assistants listened to me, and we snuck him in at linebacker. So, in all honesty, that's a great memory. But I've had, again, blessed. So many great memories. I think of Doug Bissett, the touchdown run. We were up by 2 points over Brockton in the Super Bowl, but this kind of put the game away. His run, 2-yard run, was one of the best high school runs I've ever seen. Beating Zavarian, I think, a couple of years ago when they, at our place, by 1 point when it ended there. At that time was a state record for most consecutive wins. The Red Nation fans stormed the field, and it was a great environment. I mean, again, our environment at Bridgewater Raynham on a Friday night, the student body, the cheerleaders, the band, it's a great atmosphere.
It really is. It reminds me of college.
Yeah, it's again, sometimes I didn't appreciate it enough, but looking back, it's like, it was a nice event on a Friday night there, and you saw some good football games too.
Absolutely. And basketball games.
Basketball, all the sports at Bridgewater, man. You talk
Oh,
about
yeah.
it's not just football that plays the best. I think they look at the basketball program, softball, but all of them, lacrosse, all of them play, top-notch non-league competition. And I think people are maybe spoiled, but at the same time lucky to see some great athletics.
Yeah, and they're always well coached over there, and and it goes for a lot of other schools as well. But just to see the fan base and the stands are full, and I'm lucky enough to call the game and almost act like I know what I'm talking about. And then there's Talia Tai hitting a big 3-pointer last year, and the crowd's going crazy, and you can see it in the local paper and on the Boston Globe, and she's going, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So I have to get this in. So. Where did it go? So Nate Rollins is calling in again, and his question to you, Dan, is why did you decide now this is the time for you to step down?
Well, I'm retiring in June as an educator. With the Massachusetts retirement system, it was time for me to go.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I could probably stay on and coach at Bridgewater Rainham if I wanted to, but I just think it's time to end this chapter and my wife is also retired, and it's time to move on. I don't know if I'm done with coaching altogether. I'll be honest with you, but I think the pandemic last fall taught me that there's life beyond football. I think for so long, really 34 years, I guess, counting as an assistant coach from mid-August to Thanksgiving, it's 7 days a week, especially as head coach, and even the off season. People don't realize. I think the time commitment, any coach in any sport. But the weightlifting in the off season, in the summertime, it's a year-round job. It really is. But I think just having a little time for myself and my family. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them. My wife Leslie, my son Tyler, but all my immediate family they've sacrificed, for the good of what I love to do. So, it's just time for a different chapter. I may resurface someday. Who knows?
All right, you ready?
Yep.
I know you're ready. Just go into. I'm sorry.
So what was it like to have the Chargers win 2 Super Bowls?
They were exciting. The first one was in 1998. We had been, as the head coach, we'd been to 2 previous years, and losing Super Bowls is not that fun. I can tell you that. Everybody said, it's great getting there, but losing any game for me is not fun. So. It was the first one in school history. Frank Almeida had taken a couple teams and lost, I think, one in overtime to Waltham one year. It was a great game. I was there as a spectator. But, and that was, we were 11-0 that year, and we were ranked number 1 in the state. That doesn't really mean much because it's just, newspapers picking somebody. But it was a great team and a great accomplishment, and it was the first time in school history that we had won a Super Bowl. Second undefeated season. Paul Urban had a 10-0 season, I think in 1981. But anyways, probably for me the most exciting thing about that was the community, and we beat Brockton. And you can say what you want about all the other programs. Brockton is still, in my mind, the pinnacle of high school football. So, we beat Waltham a couple years later, and it was great. But beating Brockton, I think the community, the outpouring of support and gratitude for that win, I think, was special. And it was a great game, and it was back and forth, and we finally pulled it out late in the game. Like most games with Brockton, that's become a great rivalry, I think, in southeastern Mass.
Right. So my question to you, my next question is, I'm not, and I'm speaking for myself. I'm not putting words in your mouth. I swear to God, as an athletic director, I'm not a fan of the MIAA when it comes to all these alignments, when it comes to the playoffs. You know what I mean? As far as the way they do things, like hypothetically, they put Dartmouth and, again, following the OCL and now the SEC. It's just, it's mind-blowing how they try to organize it to make it fair when you have someone like Cohasset going down a division, Dartmouth goes down a division, and there you are. And the first thing that comes to my mind is the schedule you put for your guys, Duxbury, Severian, BC High, because you want to get them ready. And then you have, if you could give them any advice, I guess, what was the first thing that would come to mind as far as something about trying to
Well,
get more structure? Because I don't think sometimes, again, I'm speaking for myself, I don't think there's structure, but I haven't been coaching as long as you and being an AD.
no, and
you know?
actually, I sit on a lot of the state committees,
Yeah.
so I think really the MIA, and I'll say this, and I don't mean to contradict. They do a better job than I think people realize. I think what happens is we all get parochial in our thinking and look at it. They're making decisions in the best interests of 300 and something schools.
Yeah.
So the football thing right now, the divisions, Dartmouth got moved down. It's strictly based on alignment. I'm on a committee that is addressing alignment in the future moving forward. I think one of the problems was we had too many appeal processes and too many, factors that could knock a team down or up
Yeah.
divisions. So
Yeah.
there's no perfect system because a lot of schools, a lot of communities look at how does it affect just my school. I think
Yeah.
one thing I learned, and I had to make decisions representing just the southeast district as a AD on these committees. You got to make decisions in the best interest of everyone, not the individual. And
Right.
I do that in coaching too. I mean, so there's not a perfect system. I think we're going to we could spend an hour just talking about the MIA and state playoffs and things like that. And I don't want to get off topic here, but it's the best system. As far as our non-league game, years ago the league champ would go to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl. So I looked at the non-league game. I didn't care about our record. I just wanted to play the BC Highs when I started Xaverian and St. John's Prep because if we could play them tough, whether we won or lost, then when I had to play a real good Barnstable team or a real good Taunton team, Silver Lake over the years for the championship or Marshfield, and would maybe down a score in the fourth period or in a tight game, our kids were used to that. They didn't panic, and I think more often than not we came out victorious in the league game. So, but the MIA they really are trying to do everything. And what you don't realize is when you sit at a table up there and there's people from Western Mass and Central, they have different needs and wants, and to try to blend it or meld it all together, it really is difficult.
Right.
And I think in the big picture, they're doing a great job. I really believe that.
Yeah.
I didn't probably believe that before I started sitting on those committees. I was probably a critic of the MIA, but when I became an AD and started getting involved, I realized there's a lot of great people in this state doing a lot of good things for their respective communities and their districts.
No, that's great. I mean, again, like you just mentioned, I'm speaking as a fan.
Right.
And like you said, there's 300-something schools. All right, so we're going to take our second break. If you want to call in, I know a lot of people are watching on the Facebook channel, at 508-222-1320. We have the privilege of having Dan Buron, head coach over at Bridgewater Raynham. Actually, everyone knows he's resigning, and of course, the athletic director. But if you have questions for him, please call back 508-222-1320. We will be back with him and more right after this. I hope I didn't sound like
Hey everyone, welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk. We are here with former Bridgewater Raynham football coach Dan Biron.
All right, you ready for your next question?
Yep, I am ready.
I don't know if I'm ready, but
Well, this is another Super Bowl question. How hard is it to coach a team to be able to get to the Super Bowl?
it's difficult. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You have to have some talent, and and you have to have some luck. It's a long season. You got to avoid injuries. You got to win some tough games to get there. The old days, you had right after Thanksgiving, 10 days, you just went to a Super Bowl. And those days I relished because you could get healthy if you were banged up.
Yeah.
A few of the years we had to win on Thanksgiving to get there, so you couldn't really rest players, and I wouldn't do that anyways. I always played every game like it was the most important at the time. But 10 days to prepare. Then they went to the system where you had to play Tuesday nights. You play Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
One year we were playing Brockton. I think it was the first year we played them, and we lost a good running back. The Tuesday game we played Weymouth, and then we went to play Gloucester. But to play that on Thanksgiving, that meant something. Then come back on a Tuesday, and then on a Saturday was very difficult. So you had to have a little bit of luck. It's more difficult, and I'm not saying that because we've done that. And that's why I think it's so special, and that's why a lot of, I think Dom said earlier, some schools don't make it. And there was some years, I should throw this out there. I think it was from 1996 to 2005. We were either outright or co-champs 8 out of those 10 years. In the 2 years we weren't, we were 9-2 and 10-1.
Right.
And I think we lost the 9-2 year. We lost Acton Boxborough non-league at the time. They were great, but we lost to Barnstable on a heartbreaker at the literally the last play of the game, and then the other one in 2005, which I think was probably one of the best overall teams I had in 28 years, and we lost a tough one to Marshfield, 7-0 I think it was, who won the league, but they were a great team. So again, that was a pretty good run if you think about it. So the 2 years you don't win or get a piece of the championship, you're 9-2 and 10-1. And I this one resonates with me. I ran into someone after the 9-2 season, when we had so many, at that point I guess maybe 5 or 6 years of going to the playoffs or whatever, or championship, and bad year because we didn't go to the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, 9-2 is awful. It's just. And I started scratching my head, and that's when I said, and I don't mean to be a wise guy about it, but that's just, maybe we're spoiling people at Bridgewater, and at that point that was that was an 0-2, and that was a great team, and just unfortunately on the wrong side of a close game, and all those close games really come down to a play, one or two plays or a turnover or whatever. So, and we've been fortunate to be on the right side of a lot of those.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, let's talk. Do you have a question? I was going to wait.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I
I'm
do.
sorry.
So, what was the atmosphere like during your final game?
Oh, I think people talked about being bittersweet. It was surreal for me. I mean, it was, the whole week leading up, though, it didn't really seem like it because it was just another game, and I was just trying to focus on my players and the game itself and Brockton.
Yeah.
And I mentioned earlier how I relished the underdog role, but people were saying we were the favorite, and I knew we weren't watching film, and we were good, but they were good, and everybody kept talking about the game with Zavarian where they got beat pretty, by a...
40, I did that 42-0.
But you break that film down, and it was a closer game. There was it's a game of a few breaks here or there, the Zavarian quarterback scrambles and hits a kid on a busted play for a touchdown and breaks it open, and I think that game, if they played again, would be different. So anyways, as a coach, I'm just focusing on the game itself, and it really didn't hit me till the very end. And even over the weekend, I said to people, it's kind of like Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
I really think it's going to hit me next fall, August 20th.
Right.
When I don't have to go out on that hot turf, so I think in the summertime, preparing kids and the workouts and things like that,
Right.
that's when it'll probably hit home. Right now, it's just, but probably the greatest thing I think that week was the outreach from people. Like I mentioned, I think I had touched base on earlier, college friends and college coaches, but even high school friends and just community. I guess I didn't realize how much support there is out there in this community for me or whatever. And I always said this, sometimes my perception of how people, what they think of me, I may have been off base on that. And that's something that I can look back on now and really appreciate. So, and the other thing is the game the other day was the group of seniors I had this year with COVID and everything, 20 kids, and it was all about them. It really was. And, and I even said to the kids, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, you're going to have a season next year. What it's going to look like, who knows? Hopefully it will get back to some more like normal, and they'll have a Thanksgiving game. And
Right.
that was a strange thing. I'm getting off topic here, but last Thanksgiving, past Thanksgiving, not having a game. First time in my life, in a long time. I wasn't on the sideline somewhere. A few of the coaches, I went down on the field and walked around or whatever, but no, it was more about the seniors. I mean, everybody's had a tough year. I'm not saying, but these kids didn't know if there's going to be a season at all. So to get 5 games in for them, and they were great. They were awesome. I can't say enough about those 20 kids. They'll have a special place in my heart.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, let's put on the AD hat for a second, and let's talk about some of them coaches, and we'll give the kudos to the coaches that run your program over there. If we could go through that.
Oh, I could list them all for you. I'm very fortunate. We have some great coaches at Bridgewater Rainham. I'm dedicated as an athletic director. Ones that I don't hire, but I may interview and recommend. And the ones I have over the years, I look at, or even the ones that I inherited and kept on board. I look at, are they a good person first and foremost, and they all are. The criteria I use, would I want my son to play for this coach, and
Right.
if the answer is yes, then what they know about this respective sport after that is secondary to me. Are they a good teacher of the game and of life? And we have some great people, and I really think that sometimes coaches don't get the respect that they deserve. Parents look at sometimes what's in the best interest of their kid, and they look at kind of with blinders on. People don't realize the time and effort they put in to their respective sports. I think a lot of people, maybe even the school organization itself, think that we just show up game day, roll the balls out, and they don't understand the time and effort that these people put in for the benefit of other people's children, but the time that they're spending away from their own families. And no one knows that better than I do, firsthand. So I can't thank all the coaches at Bridgewater Rainham for all they've done. They've made my job easy. They really have. And I'm just there to kind of make sure the schedule's set, the buses are there, and it doesn't always happen. The umpires show up or the referees show up, and it doesn't always happen. It's my fault, but I'm there to kind of deflect and let them just coach. And some people think I don't know what's going on, but I walk around and just observe. And like I said earlier, I take a little bit from every coach. I'll go by a soccer practice or a basketball practice or hockey practice and see something, or hear the coach talking to their players and pick their brains and just put it in the bank and try to use it. So very, very blessed. I think, again, you mentioned earlier, some great sports programs at Bridgewater Rainham.
Absolutely. So what do you get? What do you got, old man?
All right, can you compare your first day as coach to your last day as coach?
Oh.
You were right.
Yeah.
You were right. He was going to hit you hard.
Well, the first day was back in 1993. It was the old double sessions, the first Monday.
Yeah.
When you go out on the two-a-days, and it was hot, dusty field. But I think if the players who were there that first day saw me just last week, they'd say, "Man, he's gotten soft and easy in his old days." I was, and maybe the players today will shake their heads. I was a lot tougher back in 1993, and I think. So I've mellowed. Hard to believe if people see me on the sidelines, but I think I've mellowed and realized that I think that my mother taught me this best. I was kind of a driven player, and she one time early in my career she said, "They're not all like you." So and I think I learned from that a lot of kids are out there for a lot of different reasons, and so I think I still was demanding, but I think. People don't realize I think I do have a soft spot for these kids, and I think probably towards the end of my career I was probably a little bit kinder, gentler Dan Buren than I was in 1993.
Nothing wrong with that, though. He's still teaching.
It's called old age, I guess, maturity. I think you learn over the years. I really do, you know.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. All right, we're getting ready to take our second break. Our third break.
Third break.
Third break. I'll get it right. Remember, I've been away for someday I'm going to be as smart as and quick as you guys, but
I don't think so. These two are pretty good.
You want to call in when we get back? 508-222-1320. We want to thank everybody watching online and listening on the radio back in Bridgewater, Raynham, and the podcast. If you're listening to it on the podcast, on the TuneIn app. But I do have another question. I don't know if Catherine, do you have one more you want to dive in real fast?
Yeah, I do. Do you have a favorite football player? And why is that?
I'm going to have to say my son because he's listening. No, actually, and he is. I always said he's my favorite player of all time. I really don't. I think I said this to anybody that put a football uniform on at Bridgewater during my tenure has a special place in my heart. You know, we've had some great players. I mean, probably the epitome of is Mark Colombo, who played 10 years in the NFL and went on to BC, and he was special. But and I'm nothing against Mark either. I mean, I love him dearly, and he reaches out to me at times. And I mentioned Doug Bissett was a great player.
Yeah.
But there's so many kids throughout I've been blessed. They're all special because it takes a special person, I think, to play football. But at Bridgewater Raynham, it takes a special person. So I could name them all probably. I might miss a few right now, but they all have a special spot in my heart.
Well, between that and MIA, this turns into a 3-hour show, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere around there, yeah.
All right, we're going to step away. Now we're going to take our third break. You're listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here on the news station. 1320 AM WARA and online, all one word. Just go to the 4deepsportstalk.com website and you hit the link and you can see Dan and the rest of the crew, or listen to the rest of the crew, whatever you want to do. We'll be back with more right after this. Hey, welcome back. You are listening to 4 Deep Sports Talk here in the news station, 1320 AM WARA, and online, all one word, 4deepsportstalk.com. We have the privilege of having Dan Buron, former AD, former head football coach, moving on to bigger and better things. You will probably see him on a basketball court officiating, just so people let you know he's not dead. He's out there. He'll still be out there. And you might actually catch him on the sideline helping on another high school football program. So with that being said, we're going to go into the scores, and just like every Saturday, here is the Sportsmaster with Friday's recap.
Okay, and here we go. In football, in Bay State, Newton North versus Middleton has been postponed. In Boston City, O'Brien 28, Brighton 8, Tech Boston 30, South Boston Buick 12. Boston England versus Charlestown has been postponed. Boston English 8, Linian Tech 6. In Cape Islands, Sandwich versus Monomoy has been postponed. In Catholics Central, Bishop Fiem 22, Matha Catholic 10. In Hammock, Oliver Ames 12, Sharon 0, Mansfield 34, Taunton 0. Franklin versus Foxborough has been postponed, as well as North Attleboro versus Milford. Staunton 20, King Philip 13. In Mayflower, Hull versus Atlantis Charge has been postponed, and so has Old Colony versus Cape Cod Tech. That's been postponed as well. Blue Hills 42, South Shore Rock Tech 6. In Patriot, Silver Lake 21, Quincy 8, Marshfield 36, Hingham 6. In South Coast, Greater New Bedford versus Somerset Berkeley has been postponed. Old Rochester versus Case has been postponed. Fairhaven 35, Bourne 14, Seekonk versus Rentham has been postponed. In Tri-Valley, Norwood versus Hawkington has been postponed. The final OT, Ashland 29, Medfield 27, Dover Sherborne 23, Norton 6. Moving on to girls volleyball. In Cape Islands, Barnstable 3, Dennis Yarman 0. Nantucket versus Sturgis West has been postponed. In Hockomock, Franklin 3, King Philip 1. In South Coast, Waponquet 3, Seekonk 0. Greater New Bedford 3, Fairhaven 0. And finally, Case 3, Dighton Rehoboth 0.
Great job, old man. Great job. I have one more question, Coach. This is from Nate Rollins. I don't know if we can keep it under 2 minutes.
Sure.
So he wants to know, what was your goal when you took over the program, and did you accomplish it, in your opinion?
Well, it's funny. I very quickly I said I wanted to be the best program in the state and win every game. And I think after the second week when we lost to BC High, I had to adjust that goal and say just be competitive every game. So I think we've accomplished that. And then I changed being the best program in the state to being one of the most respected in the state. And the third goal I had was to always respect our opponents and to play hard. And I think we've always accomplished that goal. So you adjust your goals as you go, and so yeah, I think I've done
Excellent.
that.
So I can speak for all of us here. I know Lucy's not here. She's out taking care of her mom. And WARA 1320, when we wish you the best, and wherever you go, you had a great run. I mean, even the Attleboro play-by-play guys always talk about the great battles you had with them.
We've had some great ones over here, yeah.
You know, and they all wish you the best. We wish you the best. I know I'll probably see you around the school. you know, and me doing my thing and you just doing what you do, interacting with the kids, and I know you made some great impressions. Before, hopefully I won't get kicked off the air in a minute, but one of the things, Anthony Morrison, you know, we had him on thanks to you, and he talked about what a great coach you were, and this is a quote from the Brockton Enterprise, about great guy, big teddy bear, and has a heart of gold, which I already knew that, and he refers to you as one of the best coaches you ever had. And I think that's pretty cool. He's moving on to Williams, right?
He's going to Williams with an early decision. That's humbling to hear that from Anthony, but I'm going to speak to him about the teddy bear comment. I should thank all of you, what you people do for high school sports.
Thank you. We love to do it.
You know, it's great to get the exposure for the kids. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Bridgewater Rainham. The best thing that happened to me was I met my wife. She was a Rainham girl. I was a Bridgewater guy. Took her a while to
Come
win her
around.
over, but she come around, and we're heading on 35 years of marriage. So,
Wow.
That's awesome.
so I've been lucky. So that's the best thing that for me is what Bridgewater Rainham has done for me. So.
All right, with that being said, we actually have 2 more minutes. And with that, you know what? This is the part where you mentioned the wife, which was a really smart move. You can tell he's educated, right? Any other shout-outs before we go? We got about a minute.
All my assistant coaches, too many to mention, they've been great, and I, you know, so many people have impacted my life. I mentioned the guy, Pete Stewart, a little bit earlier, was head coach
Yeah.
at Bourne High School. Been a huge impact in my life. To this day, we talk at least once a week. Was a great role model. But I really have been blessed. You know, I think Lou Gehrig said it, you know, to quote him, I'm the luckiest man in the world when he spoke at Yankee Stadium. I'll say it here. And I'm a pretty lucky guy. You know, probably didn't realize it when I was going through it, but looking back now, and like you mentioned earlier, I'm not dying. I'll still be around.
That's right.
You know, people will see me around. I walk around the town of Bridgewater a lot, but I'll have to confess, I cut the phone lines today, Don, so I didn't get any phone calls. I didn't want to. I've probably got a lot of.
Good one.
But these two on either side of me were not tough enough to deal with their questions. But
Yeah.
it's been great. Thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for coming on.
For Justin Ferreira, Catherine Conley, a.k.a. or the Sports Master, a.k.a. KC, Luce Cabral, hopefully she'll be back. This show will replay next Saturday, so will not be on the air. This show will replay next Saturday. For Alex Mayo, we will catch you next time. Everyone have a safe holiday, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.